Today we go over how a typical game of Vanguard generally flows.
Take a look at who I am now. I'm stronger than ever. And if you ever doubted me, you should've known better.
So this is episode 2 of the Start to Play Vanguard series, where we take someone who just got into the game, totally new, to someone who can start attending their locals or even a bigger tournament. So if you haven't watched episode 1 yet, where we go over picking your first clan or deck, you should go check that out. So today, let's go over the general flow of the game. Note that if you don't know the rules of Vanguard completely, this is for you. So each deck has a bunch of 0s, 1s, 2s, and 3s, sometimes 4, but let's not go there just yet. These numbers are referred to as grades. So you have a grade 1, a grade 2, a grade 3, and so forth. You start with a grade 0 in the middle of your board, referred to as the Vanguard circle, denoted with this symbol. The card on said circle is your Vanguard. Every turn you can put a new card on top of your Vanguard. Said card needs to have the same grade or 1 grade higher than your current Vanguard. This action of placing a card on top of your Vanguard is called a ride. If you're totally new to the game, this may start off being a bit confusing, but we'll head into a gameplay example in a moment so everything will get clear. Your goal is to ride up every single turn to reach grade 3 on your Vanguard because of 2 reasons. First, as you may have noticed, you have more open circles around your Vanguard. These are called rearguard circles. Here you can call more cards, referred to as rearguards, to further strengthen your formation. You can only call rearguards from your hand with the same grade or below as your Vanguard, meaning if you have a grade 3 Vanguard, you'll be able to use all of your cards to fill the board, which isn't the case when you're still at, let's say, grade 1. This is comparable to something like Magic the Gathering, where you can't cast spells with a big mana cost at the beginning of the game, and then as the game progresses, you can start using heavier and heavier spells. The second reason is your stronger grade 3s usually have an imaginary gift marker. As we discussed in episode 1, each deck has a certain playstyle, and these gift markers, Force, Excel, and Protect, usually have something to do with said playstyle. For example, Protect decks are usually slower, so the grade 3s with an imaginary gift Protect will give you 1 extra card in your hand when you ride them, and that extra card will be a Protect marker. Said Protect marker can generally be used to block any attack no matter the size, but it disappears after using it. On the other hand, when you ride a grade 3 with Force, you'll get a Force marker, which you can place on a circle, and then any unit on said circle will receive 10,000 extra power. Finally, there's Excel, the aggro playstyle decks. A grade 3 with Excel will give you an Excel marker when you ride it. This Excel marker is essentially a new rearguard circle, so you can call even more rearguards to the board than before, and any rearguard on said circle also gets 10,000 power. So as you may notice, getting to grade 3 is important. How about we try to have a look at the general flow of a game with an example. But first, some things to keep in mind. Note that we won't watch the entire game, since for this example we won't be using any abilities units may have, apart from 2. Otherwise, things may get a bit complicated. When a new player wants to learn the game, I usually tell them to have their first game be one without abilities, so they can just learn the general flow of the game, and then when they're used to that, they can try a game with abilities. Obviously, I won't be going over every single rule in this video, we have a rulebook for that, but I hope it gives you a solid start. Let's quickly take a look at the layout of a playmat to help explain a few more things. As discussed earlier, this middle circle is where you will put your Vanguard, and the circles around it are rearguard circles. This zone is where you place your deck of cards, and this zone, the drop zone, is where you place your essentially dead cards. This zone is the Guardian circle. When your opponent attacks, you'll be able to place cards from your hand to stop the attacks from hitting. After that, these cards will be retired and will be sent to the drop zone. Finally, we have the damage zone. The goal of the game is to push your opponent to 6 damage and thus win. A damage is taken when your Vanguard is hit by an attack. When this happens, you take a card off the top of your deck and place it in the damage zone. So let's finally get into the game. Here we see me piloting Kagero, a Force clan, on the left, and my girlfriend playing Oracle Think Tank, a Protect deck, on the right. As I said before, we won't use any abilities apart from Perfect Guards, which will automatically stop an attack regardless of the power of the attacker. And our starters, which allow you to draw a card when you ride on top of them. So we draw 5 cards, and you try to get a 1, 2, 3 in your hand. Just keep whatever you have from 1, 2, 3. Essentially, at the start of the game, you draw 5 cards, and then you're allowed to mulligan, meaning sending cards back to the bottom of the deck, drawing the same amount again, then shuffle, And that's when the game starts. This way you can maximize your chances of getting 1, 2, 3 to ride up reliably. Alright, so we drew our opening hand of 5 cards, and then we try to figure out who goes first. Normally you could use a dice, but let's do the official thing, which is rock, paper, scissors. So whoever wins goes first, okay? Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors.
Yes.
Okay, so you go first. Yeah, sure. So we've drawn our hands and OTT is going first. So she's gonna ride a grade 1 and draw a card because she rode on the grade 0. Now the person who goes first can't attack yet, so then it'll just be my turn. So I draw for turn and then I look at my hand, quickly decide and ride my grade 1. After which I will be allowed to draw a card as well because of that starter. Now I'm at grade 1, meaning I can call rear guards to strengthen my formation and hopefully attack a bit more. Since I'm going second, I can now attack, like so. By changing the position of the card, I declare said attack. And then my opponent is allowed to guard, so they can use cards from the hand, add the guard of said card to the power of their Vanguard, and then the attack won't hit if it doesn't reach those numbers. However, I can also still get a trigger check on my drive check. This means I check the top card of my deck, and this only happens when I attack with the Vanguard, by the way. I check the top card and hope it's a trigger. It's not a trigger. If it were a trigger, it would be a grade 0 with a symbol at the top right. She didn't guard. She will now take the damage from the top of the deck. That is a trigger. It is a critical trigger, meaning she gets an extra critical, which isn't important on the defensive side, but she does get 10,000 extra power, and she can add it to her Vanguard for the rest of the turn. This means if I had any more big attacks, those would be easier to guard as well. I can no longer attack, so I end my turn, and it's now her turn to draw again. After drawing, she can then ride up to grade 2. Since we're playing without abilities, the card she chooses doesn't really matter.
So I can take the coolest one and be, let's get it over and done with.
Yes, you can take the coolest one. Rectangle Magus, okay. From here she can call grade 2s and lower to then start attacking me even more. Once the targets are chosen and called, she can then start attacking me one by one. Since I have both a Vanguard and a Rearguard, she also has to tell me what her target is. She can either attack my Rearguards to empty my field, or attack my Vanguard to deal some damage. Once those targets are declared, I can then choose if I want to guard. Once that's done, she can do a drive check and hopefully check a trigger.
Drive check?
1, yes. And you hit a draw trigger. As you notice, different triggers have different symbols. When you check a draw trigger, you are allowed to first give 10,000 power to a unit, but also draw a card. So she gives the power to her left rear guard and then proceeds to draw a card. After that, I then have to take 1 damage and put it in the damage zone. Now she can attack with other rear guards, and it's best to attack with your lowest rear guard, because even if I hit a trigger now on my 8,000, I will be 18,000, but her left rear guard got power, meaning it would be 22,000. Even if I hit that one trigger, it still hits. So I guard this first attack, because 8,000 is very easy to guard, and then I will let go the 22,000 that is much harder to guard. I damage check a critical trigger, but that's actually pretty worthless because she has no standing units left. I won't be able to use it defensively anyway. So then it's my turn, I stand and I draw, and I'll be able to ride up and then attack some more. So now I declare my Vanguard's attack. She can choose Guardians or choose not to guard.
I will let it go through.
If she doesn't guard, I can then check a drive check. It is nothing, meaning she will just take 1 damage. My worthless rearguard over there can't hit any of her units either, so I pass turn. All her units stand and she draws.
So I draw.
Next up, she can ride a grade 3 and finally get access to that spicy imaginary gift marker. As you can see, Hexagonal Magus is a protect Vanguard, so she gets a protect marker to her hand, which can be used to block almost any attack. After that, she can then add some more rear guards to her board, and these will be able to boost and thus add their power to other rear guards that are attacking to then give a much more powerful attack.
Creature bear thingy.
It's a rat.
Oh. Doesn't have a tail.
Okay, whatever.
Does not have a tail.
It is not a bear.
It looks like a bear. It's brown, it's hairy, it's big, it's a bear. It's called Kid! Miracle Kid!
Okay, let's
What's
keep
telling you it's a rat?
Let's just keep going.
Okay.
Talks about bears and rats aside, now it's time for me to be bludgeoned to death by her creatures and other magi. This time she decides to attack my Vanguard with her rear guards first. That's a strategy you could employ. You don't necessarily have to attack with the Vanguard first. And I decide to guard said attack. The power of her attacker and the booster is added up, and then the power of my Vanguard and the shield of the Guardian is added up, and since my side is larger, the attack does not hit.
So now...
I will no guard that. And this attack is a bit more special because a grade 3 has 2 drive checks instead of 1. So we see the first, it is not a trigger. And then they have another one. And that is a trigger, another draw trigger. So just like before, 10,000 power can be added to a unit and a card can be drawn.
I'm gonna give the power here.
Yes.
And I draw.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I take 1 damage. My defensive check doesn't show a trigger yet again at a key moment, so now her huge attacker, which got a boost from the trigger, will swing with the booster. And since that is 27,000, I will not be able to guard this. At that point, it's my turn to stand and draw, and then ride up to my own grade 3, which is a force grade 3 from Kagero, and that gives me a force marker I can place on any circle in the front that I want, and this way get some extra pushing power. I choose to give it to my very wordless so far rear guard, and hopefully he will finally be able to attack for once.
Yours doesn't go away.
Mine doesn't go away.
So it's not fair.
It is fair because yours is technically very powerful because you can stop anything.
It can stop anything, but it goes away.
She brings up a good point. A force marker will stay for the whole duration of the game, whereas a protect marker disappears after one use. Yes.
You get another one.
Exactly.
And you put another one.
Yes.
So
it's
not fair because it doesn't go away.
Email Bushiroad about it.
It's not fair.
Another good point she brings up about force markers is that as you ride more grade 3s, you can indeed start stacking these. I call this. So now I will also... As you notice, I just placed that rear guard to the back. This is something you are allowed to do. Rear guards can switch positions or be placed back and forward, only vertically. Meaning I couldn't put that grade 1 behind my Vanguard. Do this. So I will attack with 13,000 at your Vanguard.
13,000.
Yes.
So I need only more than 1,000.
Yes, but if I get a trigger, I could break your guard.
For fuck's sake.
Longash.
My Longash says fuck you. Okay, finish it.
Okay, so that makes you 27 and I'm 13, meaning I would have to see 2 triggers and place them on my Vanguard in order to go through. As I said, if I see 2 triggers and place both powers on my Vanguard during my drive check, I will have enough power to break through that guard and deal 1 damage, but it forces me to take a risk. See, when taking that twin drive, that double drive, you see them one by one, meaning the second you hit that first trigger, you have to choose where to put the power. So if I put that first one and I put set power on my Vanguard, but then the second one is not a trigger, that first power was basically useless, because I do not break through the guard, and my rear guard's attacks will not be stronger.
The chances are slim.
Exactly. So that's all you guard with?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do my first check, nothing. I do my second check, nothing.
I feel like all your triggers are at the bottom.
I feel the
deck.
same way. Now, since neither of us are able to use any abilities, from here, it's a 50-minute long match of just this same stuff going back and forth, both of us barely dying. I do end up winning, but there's really no huge point to showing you the rest of this game. I hope at least so far this gives you a solid idea of what a game generally works out like. Now, she does check a heal trigger, and it's maybe interesting to know that if she was at more damage than I am, she would then be able to heal 1 damage. But since I'm at 4 and she's at 3, the heal does not go off. She will, however, be able to give 10,000 power to her Vanguard, and so my next attack will be easier to guard for her. But yeah, so overall, I just hope this quick little game showed you what the game works like, and then from here, we will start making more complex videos to get you even deeper into the game. So that was all for today. I hope by now you have A, found a deck, and B, get the general flow of the game without abilities. Now it's up to you to start maybe looking at the anime to see how certain abilities interact with each other. Start playing your first few games. Maybe the first one can still be without abilities, or this video helped you enough to a point where you can start playing your first game with abilities. And the next episode of Start to Play Vanguard will be featuring upgrading your deck. So we're at this point where you found your first deck, you've played the game or at least understand the general gameplay, and then we'll start adding some new cool cards to your deck to hopefully improve it. If you found this interesting, be sure to subscribe to the Solemn Vanguard channel and click the bell button to stay up to date. I will see you soon. Ciao.